So Paul at the very end there asked us to consider the question how it is that we can make a difference. A really big question, but he did mention something as simple as a smile, a thought, a nod, or perhaps it can be more. So as we come to the end, given that we're not going to, we won't be breaking into the groups, but what I would like to do at this stage is maybe to ask those people, and there were an awful lot of people, I have to say, I noticed all the people clapping their hands when people spoke at the last section, but maybe if somebody would like to comment on maybe how they think we could make a difference, or maybe to comment on what stays with them or moves them or what challenges them about what they heard in the second segment today. I can see Precious has her hand up there. Would you like to say something, Precious? If you'd like to come in, do it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I have something to say. I just want to say that stereotype is I think is the main factor for racism. But when I first came to Ireland, people said, oh, what they call them again? The other part of Irish, what's it called again? The travelers, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Travelers are troublesome and this. But when I had there's one traveler when I was in Men, there's one girl, she's a traveler. The way she spoke to me, I have to ask her, where are you Irish? She said, yeah, she's a traveler. And I was shocked because I already had a single story of saying travelers are troublesome. So what I would say, how we can make a difference is that we shouldn't base our decisions on stereotypes like single story from people. Like, we are all different. It's not because of the color of our skin, or we have different, our personalities are different, and it's based on us individual, not on our race or skin or culture or anything or religion. It's based, your character is defined by your own personality, not by your race, not by anything. So we can make a difference by, you have to move close to people. No matter what you heard about the particular, you have to move close to people to know about them. You don't define people by what you hear, but what you know about them. That's my own. We shouldn't judge people by what they portrayed by their race or their culture or their religious anything, but our experience with them. That's what.
Thank you very much, Precious. You're not just Precious in name, but thank you very much indeed. That's absolutely wonderful. And it strikes back to what Ismail was saying about transforming inclusion into representation, and not enough to say you are welcome. There has to be much more than that in inclusion. If anybody else would like to come in and is there any hands up there? Am I missing somebody? Just let me travel through the screens here. Somebody might have their hands up.
I see Sister Teresa Horgan.
Oh, Teresa, come in there, please. Thanks, Teresa.
The way Frank became chairperson of the Board of Management in the local primary school, I think this kind of inclusion in a small job to begin with gives people a sense of belonging. In something small, they're included. And it is a great idea. And we all need to do more politically also for inclusion.
Thanks, Teresa. That's the message too. I think that Kevin, when he was speaking earlier on, came in at the end and said how really we have to make a difference, even if it's like political lobbying or at local level, I think is what he mentioned. I'm glad to say we have a new white paper on direct provision that announces the end of direct provision, but we have yet to see the detail of that, and a timeline would be really helpful also. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Concept, go ahead.
I suppose, as one who has been over just on a visit to the centre, there was an opening and the Minister Staunton was there on that day, and his comment was, if we could replicate this centre in other parts of the country. Now, I don't think it has happened, but we have a new phrase now, social friendship. Yeah. And I was just listening, Precious very briefly touched on it because it was about a relationship, and I think she mentioned Sister Chanel, who met her and introduced her to Natasha, and these are talking about making a difference. That's, you know, I can see that, and from where we go from there. But it is about social friendship to begin with, but not end there, as Islamia said also around not just making people feel welcome, but we have to go, as we say in Ireland, that extra mile. But, so thanks to everybody.
From now on, I'm just going to work.
Thanks, Francesca. I think you hit the nail on the head. Some things machine there doing dreadful things. I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned relationships, and I think even in looking at this particular encyclical Fratelli Tutti, there's a whole concept of looking at relationship, which is built upon, if you like, Laudato Si, which again is about relationship. And if you were to listen to anything that was said by any of the speakers this morning, the whole idea of looking and reflecting back on how we maintain our relationships, how rich they are, how well we are within the relationships, or how well we invigilate our own ideas about what it is to include and to make sure that those around us are belonging and included. I'm just going to, before we hand over to finally finish up to Sister Helen, I'm just going to ask if anybody else would like to come in and...
Brian, there's a hand there by Mary Oyediran, but also I sent you a direct message about the reflection before Sister Helen, maybe.
Okay, yeah. And did you say, is it Sister Mary's hand as well?
There is Mary Oyediran who has a hand.
Okay, Mary, if you'd like to come in, go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go
Right,
ahead.
so thank you so much for the opportunity. I really am so grateful for all the chat and the desire for us to do something. But I want to bring us back to something that is very simple. To me, is very simple. When I say that, that's not being derogatory in any way. And it's like, we are really called as the human race to treat each other as we would like to be treated. That is really the simplicity of it all. Racism is stemmed in race, in hate, and being afraid of a stranger that you don't know. But when you begin to treat others as you would like to be treated in any situation, you begin to find you could actually get to know your neighbor, get to know people that are different from you. I came into Near FM 2019, that's a community radio station. And one of the things that they taught me, especially the coordinator, Kira Murray, was that every time he saw me, I was new to the organization. I had done the training. And they have their culture as a radio, which is true. Every organization has their culture. But he made it a point, when he saw me in the kitchen, he would always come up wherever he saw me and extend a hand of encouragement, a mouth of encouragement and a hand of welcome. He would we'd be sitting somewhere, he would come and sit next to me. How are you? How are you getting on? How can we help you? And then one day I had a conversation with him. He said something which I hope I can leave you. He said, I don't want my children to inherit a racist island. So whatever I could do now, I need to do. So all of us, it doesn't have to be to make a big policy. Those policies are important. I value what happened yesterday. But each one of us, if we would treat one another as we would like to be treated, we're going to find a major difference on a local level, at a grassroots level. That community, neighbors, you begin to treat your neighbor the way you want to be treated. If you moved into another country, I mean, there's 70 million Irish people outside of Ireland. Now that's said a lot for Irish people. 70 million more than in the country, because you've been all over the place and they didn't kill you off. They didn't destroy you. You eventually had a way to be president in America. And so therefore, if we would extend that beautiful notion that Jesus Christ, treat each other as we would like to be, treat yourself, treat others, as you would like to be treated. How would you like to be treated if somebody just came to your neighborhood, if you just went to somebody's neighborhood? That's all I want to say. Thank you very much for a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you very much indeed, Mary. And I suppose we'll leave you with the last word when you say really that what you're asking us to do is to extend the hand of welcome and encouragement, which I think is what Paul does in DUISCA along with his colleagues, as well as our 3 fantastic speakers that we had from DUISCA, and also to Kevin, who set the scene this morning. Just before we head off, what we might ask you to do just for 30 seconds is thereabouts, is if you might put in the chat just a word or 2 about what stays with you, what disturbed you, what challenges you, because in that way we would get a good flavour from everybody, because we can actually save the chat to and put it together as part of a resource for all of you. And at that, once we have done that, you can take your time doing that, even thinking about it, because we will leave the Zoom open for a little while afterwards for people to continue to have a little chat themselves as they did before we started. And while you're thinking about what you might write, I'm going to invite Sister Helen, if she would like to come in at this stage and to close the proceedings. But for my part, I thank absolutely everybody for their preparation, for their attention to detail, for taking the time to make the difference. So Sister Helen, if you'd unmute there and you can come in. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Brian. It's still staying with me what Islamia said, no one is born racist. So I think our education system, our family values have to stress that no one is born racist. And I certainly feel challenged and hopefully enthused in my efforts in my work for justice. And it's just reminding me of the 2 disciples on the road to Emmaus. The way they were enthused, and what they did was they turned back to their work and immediately went back to Jerusalem with the good news. So I hope that we will all, in our own little way, follow up. And I'd like to remind you of what Pope Francis said. Let us not do this alone as individuals. The Samaritan discovered an innkeeper who would care for the man. We too are called to unite as a family that is stronger than the sum of the small individual parts. For the whole is greater than the part, but it is also greater than the sum of its parts. So a huge thank you to the speakers who enthused us, who challenged us. And I won't start naming them again, but I'd like to say a very special word of thanks to Brian, who so expertly managed the whole thing. And Marianne, it was a happy fault because we, not going out into chat rooms, just speaking openly in forum and getting the immediate answers from Frank and Paul and the speakers proved very fruitful. So thank you all very much. I hope you found it as fruitful as I did. Thank you. Over to you, Brian.
Thank you very much indeed, Helen. And that, my friends, concludes the North East Province Justice Day on inclusion, inequality and racism. And I think you're right, Helen, when you say that it's a happy fault, because I suppose by going into the groups, we may not have been as inclusive as we had hoped to be. So sometimes things happen for a reason. So what we'll do now for the moment is, if you get a chance, you might put a word or 2 into the chat about what you got from this morning, maybe what challenged you or what stays with you. And while you're doing that, we'll leave the Zoom open for a little while so that those people who've gathered from near and far, who haven't had the chance to meet because of lockdown, had a great 20 minutes or half an hour chatting with friends they haven't seen, that can continue for another little while. And it might even prompt you to pick up the phone later on the day or during the week to have a chat with somebody who you'd like to chat with, but you only got to see for a second on this Zoom. So once again, thank you all indeed for turning up in your numbers. And we've had a constant nearly 100 people online all morning. So maybe I'll stop now and I'll allow you to get on with your chatting in the chat box and your chats across the Zoom. So thank you all so much for everything this morning. Take care.
There you go, Brian. Those are your words.
Yeah,
thanks a million, Brian and Marianne. And
Yes, indeed.
thanks a million to all the speakers today. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you indeed.
It was great to hear so many voices today. It was lovely. Yeah.
It was indeed. Sister Lily, you put your words there before you go. I want to say.
Actually, I've clicked on it, Mariam, and it's not happening for me. Would you believe that?
When you go on Menti, the first thing that comes up is enter the code. That's the
No,
code on the screen.
that's not coming up for me, strangely enough. Enter the
Okay.
code, and I wrote down the code, but it's actually not coming up for me. Strange,
Anyway.
strange.
I
No,
understand.
for
Never
me,
mind.
Sister Pia.
Yeah, I didn't expect that everyone would get there, but it's good to see. Anyway, this is the platform for people who wants to keep chatting while doing that. If they can, just chat away, and then we'll close the room when everyone is ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people can leave the meeting whenever they wish now at this stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody from the Northern Province who organised all this.
Thanks very much.
Very welcome,
good.
Miriam.
Enjoy your afternoon, Miriam.
And you too. Oh, I have a tough afternoon ahead of me. Okay, Consulta, I'll talk to you someday
Okay, Will. Yeah. Mind yourself.
on email. Okay, bless you.
Take care. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Lovely.
Thanks to everyone.
That's Eileen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you to everyone for participating. It was great.
Thank
you,
There's
everybody.
so many of you.
Thanks very much.
Wonderful presentation.
Kevin, thanks very much indeed.
Indeed, yes.
Thank you, everybody.
All.
Thank you very much.
And again,
Thank you to everybody from Southwest Province, and thank you to Brian for playing a blinder again.
Thank you,
And
Maureen.
thank you
You're
to the
very good.
Justice Commission.
Thanks,
Brilliant.
Maureen.
Very superb, Brian.
Thanks to everybody from Fort Lawn.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
very good. Very good. Girls.
Great morning, lovely, yeah.
Yeah.
Keely,
Yeah. Lovely to see Joe too.
Hi, Mary,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mary Keely. Yeah.
Hi, Sanya.
Thanks, bye-bye. It was.
Go out here, Ray.
Precious.
We'll see you on the 20th.
Hi, Sanya.
Thank you, Helen Lenihan.
Good.
Yes, thanks, Helen.
That's
Thanks,
right.
Brian. Thanks, all of you. Marianne, too.
Thank you. Take care.
Brian, you took the screenshots, right?
I did. I'll send them to you.
Thank you so much, because I realized that I actually
No, Eileen.
didn't end up taking the screenshots, but
I took 4 screenshots because they were across 4 screens.
Yes.
yeah.
Thank
sure.
you.
No
Thank you
problem.
from Nalnega Place thank you from Nalnega Place in Cork. It was my very first webinar.
Very good.
Oh, wow.
Great.
And I feel so privileged to have been part of it. And I want to thank my colleague Paul Lehan for setting me up here. I don't have a computer at home.
Great.
He is very